And you're in tune to radio station WUSB 90.1 FM, WUSB.FM around the world. And we're in the middle of the Begathon right here. You know what to do. 631-632-690.1 FM is the number. For $25 you can get a knitted hat, a knitted cap. $35 is WSB travel coffee mug. Almost said the WSB travel ganja mug. Hey, 90.1 FM Doll's Kids, you get the whole thing, you know, the gift package, everything right here. 631-632-690.1 FM, Don DeBar. How you doing this morning?
Hey, how are you, Lister? What's
not
happening?
Not bad, man. Welcome to WUSB. As you know, we're in the middle of the fundraising thing right here.
And people should support the station, too.
Hell yeah. Let me tell you a little bit about Don DeBar. Or Don DeBar, you tell us about Don DeBar. How are you? First time on USB. Go ahead.
Yeah, I used to be the morning news headlines editor at WBAI.
Yeah,
that
Pacifica.
Other station at 99.5. And I was removed from the air June 1st. I was the morning news guy, and I thought that the listener-sponsored station that was being taken over, that it was worthy of reporting this as news to the people that support the station, but the new management disagreed, and so I was bye-bye. I've been doing journalism for quite a while, and I'm working with a group of journalists, independent journalists, spread around the world. And we've been releasing materials at WBAIX.org recently, and also you can go to my blog at Facebook. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Don DeBar, DonDebar. I basically spend my time searching for stories around the world and posting them so people have a perspective that they're not getting from the mainstream media or even from the so-called progressive media. For example, how many people out there know that while everyone, CNN to Fox to Democracy Now! Were saying that Gaddafi was bombing civilians, know that the Russian government said, we've been watching Libya with our satellite surveillance and there has not been a single bomb that's gone off down there or a single airstrike.
And this was during the time period that they were claiming that the bombs were going off.
While they were demonizing Gaddafi, they were saying he's killing his own people and this is how he's doing it. And it turns out the Russian government said, no, they're not. We've been watching, and we have satellite evidence to prove it.
But don't the Americans, doesn't the imperialist America have the same equipment to do the same thing?
Of course they do. And not only that, they know what's going on because they've had military groups, naval groups off Libya now since before the entire event hit the news. Right. They've had aircraft carriers and everything in position before there was any incident for them to be involved.
So what about these big holes that I saw in CNN? Those holes weren't made by the bombs?
You know, they ran for a good long while. You know, the nature of this has changed. You now have an armed rebellion that has taken place in some cities in the east part of the country. And one city in the west part of the country. And those took place after there were news reports, even in the Western media, that some Dutch soldiers were captured in Libya, and that also some American soldiers had their boots on the ground. That was reported in the Pakistan Observer.
That wasn't reported.
Yeah, reported. And, you know, I found it. You know, I don't know why it wasn't findable by any of the other people that are supposedly looking out for, you know, for information about what's happening.
I know, because on Burn Baby Burn, when you broke it on Burn Baby Burn, that's Thursday mornings, 3 o'clock in the morning on Pacifica BAI, I thought you were just freaking me, but, you know, I checked it out myself and it was like real. And then I heard this week that the Americans just admitted that they have special ops on the ground, as if those are not boots on the ground. I mean, well, this is long after you admitted it. That is long after you admitted it, Don DeBar.
Say it again?
I said imperialist America just this week admitted that they got special ops on Libyan soil as we speak.
That's right.
But that was after you.
Part of the U.S. resolution, for example. And by the way, apparently, they still haven't gone to Congress for authorization to even engage hostilities.
Well, the precedent was set, you know, you don't need to do that. King Nuclear, you know, did it. So, you know, El Presidente Barack, you know, he's carrying out the King Nuclear mandate, the King Nuclear, you know, come on, you know.
But what's cute is if you go to, again, go to my Facebook page, I posted a video that's up at YouTube of Joe Biden in 2007 saying that if George Bush bombed Iran without congressional authorization, an impeachable offense, and I'm not saying this lightly, I'm saying this seriously. He was broadcasting as a senator, Bush, that he would bring impeachment charges against Bush if Bush did what Obama is now doing in Libya.
So, we should impeach El Presidente Barack the First.
Well,
I mean, come on, get real, right?
If war crimes, crimes against humanity, crimes against the peace, if those things are impeachable offenses, then he's impeachable. Let
me tell you something. I've never seen a no-fly zone by imperialist America not killing innocent people. Let me ask you one more question. Why is there no-fly zone over Palestine?
Yeah, or over Gaza.
Or over Gaza.
Why is there no-fly zone over Bahrain? Why is there no-fly zone over Yemen?
Cote d'Ivoire.
Cote d'Ivoire. Actually, they're looking to impose one.
Really?
Cote d'Ivoire now. The UN is considering a resolution by France and Nigeria, of all people.
Nigeria? Yo, listen, Nigeria is about to blow up. What are they talking about?
That's the thing. Nigeria was one of the two African votes in the UN, by the way, who authorized the invasion of Libya.
Really?
Other was South Africa, which is a complete about-face from Nelson Mandela's statement that Libya and Gaddafi were the largest outside influences responsible for the defeat of apartheid. He called them brother over it. And then Nigeria, though, has been hostile towards Libya for a long time. Libya is an entirely different model of how to share oil revenues with the population. It has the highest standard of living in Africa because they do share the revenues with the people. And Nigeria, of course, has one of the lowest because the government and large corporations like Shell keep the oil revenues, and the people get nothing but oil sludge in their homes and water supply.
Right. Well, switching over to London, England, because I reminded people that the United States, imperialist America bombed Move in Philadelphia, as if to say, when they were accusing Gaddafi of bombing his own people, who accused America when the bombs went down on the Move organization in Philadelphia, the Chicago uprising, how they treated all those SDS students, the Battle of Seattle, remember that one, the big demonstration against the World Bank organization, and it goes and goes and it goes. This mayor here in New York City torturing people when the anti-war demonstration went down, and even Emmanuel Goldstein was arrested, and they put him in this swamp area filled with gasoline down at the transportation depot place. When you lose your car, you can't find a car in Manhattan, you have to go in there and get it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Then we're gonna go over to London, England, Nick Craig's country, see how they practice democracy and if they're not beating up people over there, because 500,000 people, this is massive, joined the TUC rally against the government austerity program to destroy the livelihood of the public sector by saying that they're going to cut government public sector spending in central London. Big, huge demonstration. The main group of the marchers demonstrated peacefully and walked along the pre-planned route from Embankment to Hyde Park. Anti-cuts and tax avoidance protesters closed down more than 13 shops on Oxford Street. While many more shut down their doors, the protesters the protest has been largely without violence. That's because there's no investigative journalism. Tell you what, hey, the pigs in London, they got over 4,000 of them, and they said that they're gonna stop people from texting or trying to get more people to come out to this demonstration. You aware of that?
Yes, I have, and it's amazing because out of the other side of their mouth, imperialism is complaining about other people shutting down the ability to text and use the internet.
Right, exactly.
Well, they do it, but they turn off the switch right before you get to point that out.
And jam those cell phones, right? So you can't call up your friend and say, look what we're doing. What are you doing? Come on down. Join us. Over 500,000 anti-rally anti-austerity cut from the super-duper conservative party in London,
and
England.
We experienced that jamming of cell phones right here in the United States in 2008, both in Denver and in St. Paul. We were covering protests there, and they basically jammed the cell phone system so that people couldn't communicate among the protesters or what to do. But in London, what's really interesting, the Evening Standard and the other bourgeois press there is, highlighting that there was violence. But it's interesting to point out what they call violence. And they were talking about essentially people breaking the windows of banks downtown. And it's a very interesting choice of targets, if that's true. HSBC and the Royal Bank of Scotland particularly had their windows smashed and some paint thrown at them, according to this, Murdoch-type newspaper.
That's true. We go to Israel, where there's no no-fly zone over Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu told the U.S. Imperial Defense Secretary Robert Gates Friday that Israel is ready to act, quote, with great force. You know what they mean by that, right? Drop bombs.
Blowing up innocents in Gaza again.
Exactly. In response to a spate of rocket fires by the Gaza militants. But they don't tell you why the Gaza militants are firing this thing up in the first place. Who made the first blow? Israel has been subject to bouts of terror and rocket attacks. This is a quote coming from Netanyahu, as he told the reporters. He goes on to say, "We stand ready to act with great force and great determination to put a stop to this." End of quote. This is a no-fly zone, a no-drive zone area. Even it should be, right?
Yeah, right now the Israeli senior command, the Southern Command Major General Tal Russo, today, is in anarchy, and Hamas and nobody else has control of the area. So they're trying to claim basically that there's not even a lawful government there, and so what they're doing essentially is not even a state-to-state action, but them crossing borders and blowing up citizens in order to quell anarchy in Gaza. Please.
Now, your research in Syria, what's going on in Syria? It seems like it's a slaughter going on in Syria.
Well, you have it's really to consider what's going on in any of these countries, you have to look at the larger context.
Okay.
And particularly the relationship of each of these states to the United States, and the relationship of the government, particularly, of each of these states.
All of these despots are ridiculously backed by imperialist United States of America. I mean, it's pretty consistent, isn't it?
Where that happens, yes, that's what's going on. I mean, you can say the same about Jordan. However, and you can say obviously the same about both Yemen and then Egypt and Tunisia.
Sure.
But you can't say that about Libya, which is the thing that's cute, and yet that's the one that's under, attack.
Right.
Attacking the governments everywhere else. Except in Syria, they're playing it cagey because although the Syrian government has been more or less pliant in general with the U.S. and Israel want to see happen there, the people there are not at all, and the government has had to reflect that from time to time. And so they have kind of a mixed status in the club, basically. And certainly if the Syrian leadership could be pushed out and a more pliant one backfilled into the place, then, if they got rid of Assad, then I think that the folks like Hillary Clinton would be pleased to see that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Israel, which is sort of like frothing at the mouth lately, more than usual, if they had a hand in what's going on there.
Yeah, amazing. The United States backed this fascist Emperor Haile Selassie I in Ethiopia. The British put him back on the throne. It goes and it goes and it never seems to end. But hey, it's a new day on the planet Earth. The Earth is just the size of a pinhead. Game over. The bullet has left the gun. The proletariats, the masses, the youths, they're not going back to this. Absolutely not. Jordan, the same thing is happening now in Jordan. There's a slaughter going down in Jordan.
Yep, in Jordan,
no-fly zone.
People out, large numbers of people out in the street today.
No-fly zone, huh? Go ahead.
Yeah, and that is a very pliant, U.S. client on the one hand. On the other hand, there's a huge Palestinian population there. Keep in mind, Jordan was part of Palestine.
Yeah.
And when they carved out the state of Israel, and completely negated any state of Palestine. They handed over Jordan to, this royal family, and they have had very pleasant relations with Israel, despite having, all these people that were destated by Europeans imposing a state in the Middle East called Israel.
True. Now we go over to Nippon, where Lister, apart from Michikaku, has demanded that they start throwing sand, lots of sand and cement, on this nuke situation given to you by GE. Brings good things to life. It says levels of radiation iodine in the area near the tsunami struck Fukushima, Fukushima nuclear plant, where they're getting away with murder, as far as I'm concerned. There's absolutely no reason for them to keep going over this broken problem. Right. 1,250 times much higher the radiation risk is over there. Readings were taken about 300 meters, or 984 feet offshore. They're picking up this stuff. This thing is happening. The radiation is no longer a risk after 8 days, and they keep lying to the people that it's no longer a risk.
Right.
It's getting worse and worse. When are they going to just throw the sand on top of this thing and throw the cement?
And if it were that simple, even, it would be nice, because you have to consider, I was looking the other day through some materials that I had assembled, a couple interviews that I did back 10 years ago this month, actually, with a journalist who had gone to Chernobyl to visit on the 15th anniversary of the accident there, so-called. In other words, in March of 1991, he visited Chernobyl and Kiev and Ukraine surrounding the accident site. And one of the things that he reported that wasn't reported here is that at that time, 30 to 40,000 workers had died maintaining the status quo at the site to keep the entombed reactor from blowing, because that stuff isn't something that you can put out like a match or a cigarette.
Right.
It requires constant intervention to keep it from going critical.
Yeah.
For several millennia. So, the whole idea that this stuff is something that we can regulate flies in the face of our history, where the oldest piece of infrastructure that we have of any consequence, the pyramids, is only 4,000 years old. And yet, unless we can keep all of the radioactive material that we've used to power these plants, including the spent fuel, cool for the next 10,000 years, it's going to blow. And in Chernobyl, after entombing it, they've lost 30 to 40,000 people keeping it, from blowing.
What's the status of Indian Point?
Still open. Today, Jim Steitz, who's the mouthpiece for Entergy, the corporation that owns it, was on local TV telling us how safe it is, and we've had folks from Riverkeeper saying, well, it's not so safe, and then talking about various processes that should be used to close it. Nobody's talking about, how about getting everybody inside the 50-mile zone or the 10-mile zone, depending on which one you want to pick.
Yeah.
So sit outside the plant and stay there until they shut it down.
True. And lastly, two things I want to touch upon. The supremacist court in Honduras. El Presidente never visited Argentina.
Right.
El Presidente Barack. But the supremacist court in Honduras has dismissed 3 arrest warrants against former democratically elected Manuel Zelaya. Remember that?
Yes.
The move allows Mr. Zelaya to return without detention to Honduras. He went through almost a bad situation like Aristide. This was Barack's coup with Hillary Clinton, the situation with Zelaya. The judge, Oscar Chilia, said that Zelaya still faced corruption charges over his plan while president of the country. And it goes on.
Yeah.
They say they're going to try him for trying to hold a vote and change the constitution. I thought that was a what-if situation. He was just asking the people for their opinion. Which even if you wanted to change the constitution, they tried to pull that off in London, England. Nobody went to jail. Well, it was just an intellectual interaction, huh?
There's a war powers section of the U.S. Constitution and separate Powers Act legislation that requires congressional approval before you can bomb another country unless there's imminent danger. And yet Barack Obama has been and is still bombing Libya for now 8 days.
Well, like I said, it's a precedent. It's been set, right? It's amazing. It's amazing. And lastly, what's happening up in Newburgh? Are they still fracturing up in your territory there?
Yeah, well, the fracture fight has been ongoing, and some people have tried to use the nuclear situation in Japan as an excuse for why we need to fracture here now. But the real news about Newburgh this past week has been that they judge in the case of the Newburgh Four heard oral arguments by the defense on motions to dismiss the case against the four of them, even though they were convicted.
Right.
And the Village Voice is actually carrying an article about that links to the only article that has existed so far where they actually interviewed any of the defendants.
Wow.
If you go to the villagevoice.com website, you can find that pretty easily, titled Newburgh 4 Judge Hears Oral Arguments on Defense Motions to Dismiss. The second paragraph is a link to the article with the actual interviews with defendant David Williams.
Now, Manigat, in that fictitious election, I mean, there can be no election on the NGO occupation. 10,000 NGOs, more than the individuals, if you add them up in the Haiti, in the Haitian government. Manigat and Sweet Mickey. Sweet Mickey is a teabagger. You know how Sweet Mickey got that name? From that extremely vicious, violent eliminator in the military in Haiti. His name was Sweet Mickey, and he said, no, this singer is Sweet Mickey. That's how the teabagging Sweet Mickey got his name. Now, Wycliffe Jean was running with Manigat. Am I right?
And of course, the majority party represents about 80% of the people.
Shame on Wycliffe Jean. She's a Republican candidate. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And you have basically a viceroy in Haiti right now named Clinton, who sits on top of all of the funding that's been given to the for the Haitian people, but hasn't reached them at all while they're in desperate straits. And over the last week, as a matter of fact, there was a week ago yesterday, as a matter of fact, there was all this maneuvering that went on when Aristide announced he wanted to go back to Haiti before the election because he was not barred from doing that and figured right after the election, whichever of the two anti-Aristide candidates won, he'd be barred. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama all called the president of South Africa, Barack Obama, twice, saying, do not allow Aristide to go. Now, South Africa, which had
demanded that
Nelson Mandela had said that Gaddafi and Libya helped them get rid of apartheid, voted the same day that Aristide was allowed to leave, voted to allow the invasion of Libya. This entire thing, in my opinion, and according to Phyllis Bennis, also, if I read her right, was orchestrated by Clinton.
Sure. And
so the people in Haiti are, sitting as puppets basically in the middle of this international battle to take out Gaddafi while they're sitting there starving, and Bill Clinton, is sitting on top of a whole bunch of money that could help their situation a lot.
Meanwhile, Sarkozy gone wild. Election is coming up. He's desperate. He's definitely going to lose that election, and he's bombing the hell out of Libya.
Invade Cote D'Ivoire now, too. He and Nigeria are at the UN looking to invade Cote D'Ivoire.
And let's see, Berlusconi, how is Berlusconi going to play out in this? He's got to be the mediator, because it seems as if they're going to split the country in two parts. I guess they're going to give Gaddafi the capital of the country and the other people the rest. Is that how it's going to play out? And Berlusconi is going to negotiate for Gaddafi or what?
Well, I mean, that's, you have to consider, of course, the history of Italy invading and occupying as a colony Libya historically, 1922 until after World War II, but also even from the Roman days. Carthage was in Libya.
We're running out of time here. Don DeBar, this was fun. We got to do it next week, same place, same time. Don't forget, you can hear him on Burn Baby Burn between 3 in the morning on a Thursday until when Al Jazeera kicks in at 5 o'clock. Don DeBar, pleasure here.
Thank you, my brother. Take care of yourself.
Right on.
Be well.